Welcome to another edition of Turn 6 Garage, and today we are driving the 2023 Volkswagen Polo 85TSI Life. It's been a while, I've been very busy of late, I've had lots of things on my plate, and the channel's been something that's been a bit neglected. But there's a whole heap of content coming, so keep your eyes posted over the next few weeks. This is a vehicle that I drove a few months ago, and it is a base 1-litre TSI Life Volkswagen Polo, $32,590. This thing's got to be special to warrant that amount of coin. But when you look at it and when you sit in it, it's a Volkswagen, a standard looking Volkswagen. It's not really ugly, but it's not exactly beautiful either. It's together and classy, but just not inspiring. It just looks like every other Volkswagen of the past 7 or 8 years. But maybe it's an absolute cracker of a thing to drive. Well, in terms of ride quality and handling, it's pretty typical Volkswagen. Suspension's a little bit on the stiff side, although it turns reasonably neatly. There's nothing that would really surprise you on the suspension front. Brakes feel sharp. The car feels reasonably well sorted, although you do wish the ride quality was a bit better. The way the thing steers and handles is good. The engine and gearbox interaction, not so good. In D mode, it's, well, pretty stupid. It likes to go into full economy mode, and that is 6th gear, up a hill. It's now gone to 5th in 60 k's an hour. I mean, come on. It's like being ruthlessly tuned to economy. Everything on the car is just set up to be as economical as possible, which in actual fact kills the performance and actually makes the economy worse. Up a hill, you stupid thing. Oh, stuff that. Now we're working. Getting the gears right on it. When you drive it in manual mode and you control the gears, it's actually reasonably torquey. This engine's peak power is higher in the rev range than what the gearbox is tuned to. So if you keep it in manual mode and you keep it buzzing around the 3,000-4,000 RPM mark, it's actually very good. The car's really powerful at that right time, and the response is pretty much instantaneous when it's above 2,500 RPM. The problem is in D mode, it doesn't want you to go there. You have to really put your foot down or drive it in manual mode. Great gearboxes, these things, love them. Personally, I prefer one with a manual box, and that's what you can't get quite easily anymore. I would hunt out one secondhand with a manual gearbox, because I reckon this engine, this little 1-litre 3-cylinder engine, in manual mode, it's a real little peach. Nice and powerful. Plenty of torque up a hill. When it's actually in the right gear, it's quite a nice little thing. In here, it's typical Volkswagen. Everything feels solid, everything feels well screwed together, which is good. And it will be well screwed together for the first, well, at least 5 years. Afterwards, well, we can ask that question later. That sound is very, very unbalanced. It sounds a bit crunchy. Well, if you're into these sort of cars, you'll appreciate it. But if you're coming out of a 4-cylinder Golf or Polo, you will find this a little bit unrefined. So if you're coming out of an older 1.2 or a 1.4 in an older model Golf, you will find this engine a bit unrefined. It's not as smooth as the older motor. And it does labour more in higher gears at lower speed, so when it is in D, you feel like it's labouring all the time. So the Polo's reasonable to drive, interior accommodation's good, looks are okay, feels reasonably well built. It would fit the dictionary definition of a car very well. And would this be a car you should consider buying? Well, this car, in its configuration, list price is about $31,000. 1-litre, 3 cylinders, hatchback. As you hear the quality indicator tick, let that sink in. Has it sunk in yet? Yep. 31 grand for something like this is a whole hill of money, but I can't really criticize it that much because the competition's also a whole hill of money for a small car. There was a time when Polos were $16,990, drive away no more to pay. That was about 7 years ago. Yes. This is where my qualm is with this car. It's a symbol of the fact that there's a whole bunch of buyers now, younger buyers, that see fuel economy and emissions and small cars as very desirable things, and consequently manufacturers have made sure they price them to the point to see just how far these people will go. That's what I see with this car and the Yaris and the two. Ever since COVID, price rises for these things are nuts. And the other thing is, 30 grand for this car, you're price shopping it. Think about the MG3. That's 10 grand less for a car that's marginally smaller. Okay, a lot less advanced, nowhere near the badge, but it's a big chunk of change. I can see why the Chinese are selling so well if the European competition and Japanese competition are so expensive. And again, 30k smacks a bit at me. It's a good car. Stupid gearbox in DSI, it's a good car. 30 grand is just too much. If this was 20 or even mid-20s, I would probably say, yep, goodbye. 30, no. No. They've specified it with the alloys over the base car. The base one of these used to be in the mid-20s. The manual was about 23,990, about 3 odd years ago. Yeah. People are buying the equivalent SUV because they think it's better value. Having driven the equivalent SUV of this, which is the T-Cross, this is a much better car than the T-Cross. I didn't do a video on the T-Cross because the vehicles are being loaned from someone and I can't really say anything nice about that car. To sum this video up is very simple. The Polo is a solid, good little car. Does the job right. There aren't many things to complain about, this stuff gearbox aside, and this is the main concern. Everything else is very good. Like the handbrake, feels well made. Everything is right about how it feels in terms of driving position, switch gear, and comfort. Suspension's a little bit hard, but it does turn well. It is a Volkswagen product. It is set up like a Volkswagen product. Where you need to be with this car is, are you willing to spend 30 grand for one of these things? That's the question you need to ask yourself. For me, the answer is no, it's not worth 30 grand. To me, I would be buying myself 2016 or 17 manual Polo 1.2 TSI for something like 11 grand, and I'd probably get the same sort of thing, okay, with less connectivity and less of the apps and all that, less of the touch screens. But to me, this car is not 20 grand better than a second-hand manual Polo. And yes, cars have gone up, I'm not going to deny that. I would not feel comfortable throwing 30k at this. Simple as that. If you like the car and are willing to accept that amount of money, and this is a 5-year lease thing, that's where this thing makes the most sense. But it's a whole hill of money, and I can't get around that. Thank you for watching, and if you like what we do, remember to like and subscribe.